Good evening, class. This is Professor Puente, and today we have your video. Of course, we have one of your guest lecturers, Sonia. How you doing, Sonia?
Hi, I'm doing great.
Sonia's done a wonderful job. This is your first time on Skype, right?
Yes.
You've done a wonderful job. I'm very proud of you. I think you practiced it a couple of times. I want to let you know, and for the class out there to know that it was a difficult thing for you because I could tell. I think you got a little bit of your family all together, but she figured it out. Okay, and that's stupendous because this is what business is about. Business is not, hey client, help me with me trying to help you. Client should not do anything and then try to do that on purpose. I could have actually, sat there and explained to you how Skype works, but the truth is that you probably got a better experience knowing that you were due for a video and you did a wonderful, masterful job. Okay, so I congratulate you for that. It's much easier for some of our students to do that, but for you, you figured it out. Thank you. And with that said, Sonia, tell us a little bit about you.
I'm a mother of four, and I was self-employed most of my life, and then took a different direction about 2.5 years ago, and I'm in the construction management program at Lone Star, and I'm a traveling superintendent now. I work for a big construction firm.
Perfect. What did you do as an entrepreneur? You said yourself and self-employed.
The funny thing is we had bought a puppy as a pet for my kids, but it happened to be a purebred Shar-Pei, and we bred her one time, and I fell in love with the dogs, and so I started showing them and breeding them, and then I wound up building a really large kennel out on Lake Conroe.
Oh wow!
I had a storage facility, and my first husband had a landscape company. So
congratulations. Well, I think that's probably why you figured this out on your own, because I can tell you, entrepreneurs, self-employed people, they do such a wonderful job to come up with a product every time. It's just because it's on them. They really feel like they rely on that. So congratulations. I could see it. I could have seen the self-employed in you. So with that said, we'll start on our discussion for Objective 17. These next 4 objectives are really important for the course. There is a midterm, guys. I do want you all to know the midterm is next week. The syllabus has some kind of errors because of how we started. Okay, I do got to tell you. I'll try to update it, but the midterm is next week. So there won't be no live class next week. There will be what I call a midterm review. A midterm review. You want to show up to the midterm review because you're going to get questions. And there's a little way to do this for the midterm review. I think you guys will like it. But you don't want to miss it. If you are out there watching this video this week and you have not really participated in the live discussion, that's okay. That's okay. But this week coming up, next week, because of the midterm review, you want to try to come out. If you want to learn how to, just email me and I'll send you the instructions, okay? But it does involve a little bit of dealing with this application, and only because obviously it's much easier to do it that way, okay? So, but I'll explain it to you, all right? Right now, these are going to be the last 4 objectives of the midterm. The midterm will be about objective 1 through 20, because 17, 18, 19, 20, to 20. So 20 objectives, plus some questions about the video that you're supposed to watch last week, right? Did you watch the JC video and Warren Buffett?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. There's some questions about that. And I know that some of you guys had to do discussions, and that's it. So let's begin with Objective 17. What is critical thinking? Critical thinking is a thoughtful, deliberate process of deciding whether you should accept, reject, or reserve judgment about a particular idea. Do you see how often you do this, Sonia? You may or may not.
Oh, I have to do it. I do it every day.
I believe that because everybody does it. It's just they don't really have a systematic way of doing it. You look at something and you think, do I like that? Do I not? Do I don't have an opinion about it? But you still always make decisions. Have you noticed?
Yes.
It's hard not to make one. It's just you're doing it. Most people doing it, they do it backheaded, right? Like easy. Although the word critical can mean to find fault or criticize, critical thinking is not negative activity. And I didn't really put those two together, but critical thinking itself has its own meaning. Rather, it is a process where you ask questions. Out of all your daughters, who asked the most questions?
Probably my youngest daughter, Sophia.
Sophia asked you the most questions. Yeah, I bet you she's probably one of the most innovative. We don't know, but it could be
highly intelligent.
Really,
Out of all my kids. Yes.
Really, really. They say that our amount of questions drops off quite a bit after 15 years of age. And that's when we think we know things. But before 15, we are asking every kinds of questions. And I wish we could continue our question seeking past 15. So maybe that's important, right? Sonia, so this next question, this next term, and the midterm is going to be specifically about term, especially from these objectives. It's about a claim. A claim is a statement that someone says or writes about a topic, right? You see that in social media quite easy. You know, you may see fake news, you may see real news, but there's always claims. What do you think an example of a claim would be?
Well, you know, according to the book, I mean, it can be true or false. So, I mean, it could be any statement about anything.
Exactly.
It could be the weather. It's 35 degrees outside and snowing.
So is it cold?
Where I am right now, yes, it's very cold.
So there you go. You just made a claim, right?
Right.
And the funny thing is that claim is raw. It's raw. You just said it's cold. But if I was an Eskimo, I'll probably look at you and say, that's not cold. It's like a summertime weather for me, right? So, but it's still a claim. And that's what they're saying. Whether it's true or not, whether it's an opinion or a fact, it's still a claim. So that's really important. For example, if a colleague claims Quest tours to Italy are the most popular, again, that's a claim, right? So this is why when someone says something, a statement, I like to use that word and say, man, that's a big claim you're using, right? You're using a big claim because that's like your statement. And then now when you put a claim out there, what do you think you have to do, Sonia?
Justify it.
Justify it. Exactly. And this is really important because some people just don't. They just say their statements. And you know what? The Texans are having a wonderful year. And they're like, whoa, why did you even make that claim? You better now you have so much to reason through, right? So what is an issue? When you're solving problems or engaged in other activities that demand critical thinking, remember, critical thinking is the process, the systematic process. You examine and thinking about an issue. In general terms, so it's a situation, right? It's not necessarily a problem. And now remember, the word issue and the word claim, they all have different definitions depending your school, right? In this case, we're in the school of decision theory under the College of Business. If it was in insurance, claim would be totally different, right? Claim absolutely. So, but in this case, the word issue is not a problem. It's just a situation, a controversial subject that you discuss or dispute. That is the issue at hand, right? So who do you start at quarterback could be an issue at hand. Okay, so that's the difference. Then claim, issue, you're starting to see where I'm going with the midterm. They're going to be all about this, right?
Okay.
Here's another word that people will up and down get it. Argument. They see the word argument and they only see a verbal fight. But that is not necessarily true, especially in law. An argument is a set of one or more claims to support a particular conclusion. So you made your claim. It's cold outside. Then you actually started to use 35 degrees. Then you started to say it's snowing. Then now you're making all the claim with the backup is an argument, right?
Right.
Absolutely. So usually an attorney, when they try to state their claims, the collection of the situation is their argument, their point to come across. So that's really important there. And now we get to the two things you hear all the time, facts and opinion. What do you think is facts and what do you think is opinion, Sonia?
Well, there's a big difference. Again, facts will have something substantial proving that it's got some truth to it. An opinion can be anything. There can be truth or, false, true. It's just what someone believes. It's what's in their own head, with their own opinion or what they believe.
Got it. So what does the class say fact or opinion is? And to me, let me tell you this. I'm going to make a statement. You tell me if it's fact or opinion, right? The temperatures in the oceans are rising slowly but steadily. What do you think?
I have no idea if that's true or false.
You have no idea
I
if it's true or false.
It's probably just your opinion.
It's probably just my opinion.
Read it somewhere. I don't know.
Right. That's right. So yeah, you're right. It would be an opinion. But if I showed you a chart that gave me degree temperature from 1995 till now on the rise of the temperatures, it would be more of a fact, right? Because you first of all have to believe it, but it's still stipulating some kind of raw fact. The opinion will come in that I'm looking at the chart and I'm saying, well, it's absolutely increasing. So opinions do attach to facts, by the way. I do got to say that. When you're talking academic, that is an opinion. Did you know that science is an opinion?
What is an opinion?
Science. Science is an opinion.
Science.
Yes, because there's raw facts, but the opinion comes from the professors looking at the scientific data, the raw data, and saying the reason why these things are happening, right? So things that are opinionated does not mean bad. It doesn't. It actually is hard to find out things. Good opinions and bad opinions, that's totally different. Totally different ballgame, right? So, but good. Thank you for answering that. Let's see what the class says. Andrea Lopez says, in the airline industry, the airline put in complaints claim on how we perform our services. Some issues are not as easy to solve as others. We have our employees that have their side of the story, and then we have the airlines who have their side of the story of what happened. We have to know how to differentiate between the fact and opinion. That's very good, Andrea. Absolutely. As managers, we have to think critically on what's the next step that will be to resolve the issue and avoid future issues from arising and satisfy the client, right? So for Andrea's case, definitely taking all the facts, squeeze out all the opinions because they have to make a decision. And that's very good. I like that post. I appreciate it. Okay, so then we got through 17. And then we go right to 18. Identifying arguments, right? So to identify arguments that others make, ask yourself the following questions. What is the other person trying to communicate, illustrate, or prove? It's really important that as you try to do an argument, you know the other side of the picture, right? That way, you can see what their conclusion is, and you can actually adjust your argument as well, right? Look for argument indicators, and this means signals to catch your attention. You know, some things that are like, okay, because, since, assuming, that, for are similar expressions. So these are little things that you kind of understand, right? So when you're telling me that it's cold outside, you gave me a because, right? And that was an indicator, that actual word because, since, for, right? So that's definitely important. Keep an eye on that. And then here's another thing called an assertion. Assertion is a simple statement that does not include any supporting evidence. Could you give me one? What's a good statement out there that's an assertion?
Assertion is a simple statement that does not include any supporting evidence.
It could be actually pretty simple.
I don't know. I was thinking, people that go to wineries like wine.
Okay, very true. Because you do see people that come in and they're like, you know what? I love this wine. Okay, great. Why? It goes back to why, right? That's an assertion, okay?
Right.
So I would love for the class to understand that if you could use these terms, not just in class, but let's say you're at work and you hear somebody to tell you, in construction, and they tell you, listen, I really believe that the type of sheetrock we need to buy should be American. Okay. You probably ask them for what? Like, why? Like, are you talking cost? Are you talking, is there some kind of benefit for us to buy American only? Is it going to be, helpful for our customers to know? Maybe there's a value in the customers to know that it should just be American sheetrock. But you see how an assertion could be made by just saying a stipulation, and there's no backup to it. It's just they kind of blindly said it. So keep your eye on those assertions. Absolutely keep them. Okay. Because when they put their claim and then bring their argument, right, it may just be an assertion. So here's another thing. Deductive reasoning. typically takes an argument from general observations or premises to a specific conclusion, okay? And your figure 3-4 tells you the difference between deductive to inductive. Which one do you think is my favorite?
Deductive reasoning from general, inductive reasoning. Comparing, let's see.
And I'll let the class try to let me know which is my favorite.
Well, I would say the inductive. I mean, it just like, for me, I don't know, it has more reason behind it, where the deductive reasoning is more like an assertion.
It could. Right? Very good. No, actually, I like it. It's very good that you use that word, because it could lead to an assertion, because you're now focusing on one thing. You're trying to get to one thing. And let me explain to you how this works. You figure that a tall, okay, so if you need to, let's say this, you need to find someone strong, right? If you need to find someone strong, you think and you make a claim that someone tall could be strong, okay? So then now your deductive reasoning is to find someone that is tall so you can find someone strong. But then you kind of look out all the other strong people who might have been shorter. You just made a deductive reasoning. While the other way around, you're saying who is strong? People that are this, correlated with that, correlated with that. People that work out, people that, you know, usually have some strength in the legs. And now you're kind of going bigger and bigger and bigger. It doesn't get you to a specific conclusion, but inductive reasoning gives you the widest angle on everything. And another good example would be, instead of thinking things black and white, you think of it on probabilities. Okay? And that's really important in science, because that's really how science works, believe it or not. The probability of a lightning strike, the probability of a terrorist attack. If you notice, that's what insurance is about, probabilities. That's inductive reasoning, getting to what percentages, the odds of you getting hit by a lightning. You see what I mean? As opposed to saying, hey, guess what, Oklahoma, you guys are all, you're right? That's a very deductive. Oklahoma people always get hit by lightning. That's too deductive, right? Right? So very good, very good. Thank you for using the terms correctly, Sonia. That was really definitely good. Let's see what the class says. I work in doctor's office, and an argument that was recently brought up was making all employees get the flu vaccine. I made the claim, that was very good, Lauren, made the claim that I did not want it because of the bad effects I've had in the past. When I went to my boss, I made sure to see her side of the story. I wanted to see her employees to vaccinate. Now, hold on a second, Lauren. You actually don't just have a claim. What does she have, Sonia? It's okay. You can do that. But the claim was one thing. The claim was, I did not want to get the flu vaccine, right? The argument is from the bad side effects I've had in the past. So she actually had an argument, okay? If she had said, I don't want to get the flu vaccine, that maybe be a cause of an assertion, because there's not necessarily some because there. There's no because, right? Now, does that mean that her data is correct? I don't know. That's not what the point of the class is. The point is to understand that there's a claim, there's raw, there's an argument because you bring your reasons, and then there's an assertion that you may have mistakenly not backed up your reason exactly. So you have to use each reasoning skill based on the situation. I do believe that, Tawana, and it's very true. Trying to get to one situation, deductive, one answer. However, believe it or not, scientific method tells you to go more inductive. It used to be only deductive. It used to be like you get to one answer at all times. But now scientific method has told us to go a little more inductive. In other words, guys, there really is not one answer to everything. I would love to tell you 2 + 2 is 4, but there's even evidence that tells you that 2 + 2 may not always be 4. Isn't that crazy? So yes, we've gone away from that. So, and this is why science is fluid. Okay, science is fluid because they're doing this exact same argument, exact same claims, the exact same, and they change it. Why Pluto is no longer a planet, right? Right, Sonia? So,
yep.
Assessing the credibility of an argument. Okay, so assess arguments to determine how credible they are. This is really important for what's going on nowadays, especially with the fake news craze, right? Do you have a Facebook account, Sonia?
Yes, I do.
You know, everybody's going crazy with the entire, Russian commingling that people believe or not, right? But social media, it's definitely getting affected by this. Now, there's a situations that we need to know. Believe it or not, your class, your course can help you with this because now you can kind of say, well, that's a claim, that's an argument, there's a fallacy in that. You see what I mean? So you get to actually pick apart everybody's opinion on the matter, right? So to assess credibility, right? And let's go to the next page. Consider the validity of the argument. A valid argument has a conclusion that logically follows from premises. Okay? God bless you. God bless you. So,
yeah, thank you.
A valid argument, something that completely follows a premise. And you have to realize how it follows, okay? It's 1, 2, and 3. It is cold outside, so I go get a jacket. And I go get an umbrella in case it rains, right? So therefore, it is a rainy winter day, right? That's a valid argument. It has to be valid because it has to be relevant. It has to be relevant to the argument. It is cold outside, so I'm going to go ahead and get some shorts on. That's not very valid, right? That didn't follow through correctly, okay?
No.
Exactly. So then you want to make sure that
it doesn't seem like a logical decision. If it's cold outside, you don't want to put shorts on. You
exactly.
Want to get warm.
Exactly. So that didn't make sense to you. So that wasn't a valid argument to you. And this is easy because the way I'm saying it. But you'll see people absolutely bring situations out there that you'll be like, whoa, that wasn't valid, right? Your argument didn't go through.
Right.
I was scared of traffic. So I turn on music. How does that go together? Does music make you less afraid? Maybe you forgot to tell me that, right? But if I was to say, I'm scared of traffic and music calms me down, so I turned it on. Do you see how those 3 premises went together very well? Oh, I understand. This is a valid argument. Here's another thing. A sound argument. A sound argument is the most beautiful thing out there. All it is an argument that is valid. And it logically follows the premises together very, very well. It's sound, right? It's sound. It's A plus B equals C. So if you see here, here's a valid and sound argument. Rome is a city. Travelers prefer beaches to cities. That means that travelers would rather go to the beach than Rome. Does that make sense? Now, they're saying here it's valid, but unsound. Okay? The other one is sound. Overseas tours are enlightening. Trekking in Tuscany is an overseas tour. That means the trekking in Tuscany tour is enlightening. You see how that happened? So overseas tours are enlightening, and trekking, and then you bring the other one across. Trekking in Tuscany is an overseas tour. Then that means you put A plus B equals C, right? So sound just means it follows a good loop. Absolutely good loop, right? So number 3. Besides that sound argument idea, and this would be a great idea for you guys to kind of put some samples of sound arguments. Consider the source of the information that you consider as you solve the problems and make decisions. So the source, where is this coming from? If you see a Facebook ad and it tells you about a situation, immediately consider the source. Immediately. In the absolute beginning, even if it sounds something like that you want, right? The Astros are up. Wait, hold on a second. Who's telling me this? Oh, they're actually not up. They're down, right? So it's important that you kind of see where the source comes from, right? Consider reasons based on authority. Absolutely. So who's your favorite person you follow on Facebook? Like a public person?
I personally don't follow any public people. It's
okay.
all friends and family. I've never followed any celebrities or anything like that.
Okay. So then overall, who in your family do you trust with information the most? Who would you say has more authority over you, what you say?
My dad.
Your dad. It's funny enough, he's an authority figure to you, right? He's your dad.
Yes.
And when he says something, you absolutely hear it. So that's what it's saying. Consider the reasons based on authority. Because he's your dad, there's some authority to you, then you believe it a little more. But out there on the internet, it's a little hard because you don't see your dad, right? So it's more like, right. Okay, is this a public figure? Is this the mayor of Houston, right? The mayor of Houston is telling you to evacuate. You probably need to listen because the mayor of Houston. If I was to tell you to evacuate on Facebook, you probably think, well, he's my professor, but what does he know about evacuation, right? And I would absolutely admit to that, right? What would I know? So it's important you know the authority. And then compare the argument to your background knowledge. Compare the claims to your own background knowledge, which is collection of beliefs, facts, experiences. In your case, you said, I have years of self-employment experience, which is I was very happy for you and proud for you, right? But that gave you a little system of beliefs, a system of facts, a system of experiences that made you able to get to where we're at today, right? Trying out Skype, right?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So absolutely test the background knowledge. So let's see who else. Tawana, does validity also mean fact-finding or presenting data to back up a claim or statement? No. Validity only purely means that it's valid, that is relevant to the talk, okay? So a valid statement could not be valid if it's something else. If, let's say, if I speak about real estate, Tawana, and I tell you a fact about Toyota, is that valid? Toyota to real estate? No, right, Tanya?
I'm sorry. I was reading some of the posts. Say that again.
It's all right. It's all right. If I said a statement about real estate and I involved something about Toyota, would that be valid?
No, they have nothing to do with one another.
Exactly. But if I said Toyota, the factory is coming into Dallas and it's going to create jobs, which is going to make real estate a lot better, would that be valid?
Well, then it makes a little more sense. Maybe they're going to be building some more homes or, doing something because they're expecting more people to move there, more
Perfect.
Jobs. Yeah,
perfect.
That would make sense.
And then that would be a little more sound. So that was a good question, Tawana. I've seen on social media how easy it is for false information to get around. Knowing how to find out if a source is credible or not is not only important in business world, but also important in everyday life. That is true, Lauren. There's so many things about fake news is not new. Fake news has just been termed this lately, but it's been around forever. It was even worse in the times when there was no newspaper. Let's say it was no newspaper and you're sitting here and you're like, hey, I think we declare independence, right? Whoa, how would you know? Who told you? Well, it was passed down by my neighbor. Oh, you didn't know this is true. You're going to declare independence? Good, because I'm going to leave the British monarchy. Oh, man, I just got caught. I'm sorry I didn't say that. You see how difficult that was back then? Lots of fake news, lots of real news that people thought was fake news. But see, and then you had to make decisions. So at least we have information error. No, because it's irrelevant. I guess I think that's what that's what Alma wrote. So let's see. I don't see anything else, guys. This is your last objective. I would definitely encourage you guys to put in something, and that way we get your discussion grade. And here we go. Essential elements. A scientific approach tests ideas and argument to verify their correctness. If you cannot test an assertion, you cannot know whether it is valid. When you're presented with an argument, consider whether and how you can test claims and premises. Testing these premises, testing these claims is really important, right? One of the things you're seeing is that we're looking at the validity and we're also looking at the credibility of each argument, correct? So let's see. Let me ask you a question. When you're doing now your construction work, who are they telling you to evaluate as far as construction work, as construction class? Are they telling you to look into people out there in the business?
Well, I mean, in my daily life at work, I am always having to evaluate the workers and the work in progress that's going on around me, making sure that they are, first of all, just working and then doing what they're supposed to be doing and going by the scope of work and making sure it's accurate.
Do you call them? Or do you go to the site?
I'm on site on projects, jobs that are being built.
Wow.
Like, I'm out there in the field watching them put up siding and watching them put in air conditioner units and measure trim and paint and
God bless you.
Screw things up. I mean, it's yeah.
I'll tell you this because I myself fix up homes and they're my own projects, and I tell them to get them to sell. Subcontracting is incredibly difficult because you got to make sure they do it right. And then I don't know how you do that when they don't do it right, how you have to bring it up to them, because it gets a little tricky, right? People want to leave for home, like, hey, you have to kind of redo this. It's difficult. So you evaluate it yourself, right?
Right. So, and the whole key is to catch it before it's wrong.
Yes.
That's to try to catch it before it's wrong.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, if you stay on top of it, you might see something that they're getting ready to do that they're not supposed to do.
Yeah.
You'd be like, and get the blueprints out, have your argument, and, you know, save a lot of time versus if they do it wrong, nobody caught it. Okay, well, now you have to decide, are we going to go back and fix it? Are we going to send a change order? How much money is it going to cost to do this?
Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot.
I sure hope our class can definitely help you with that, only because there's going to be a lot of people telling you a lot of suggestions on construction, a lot of suggestions. You have to make sure who's credible, what's valid. You know, so many people love to, you know, stick in more work because they get paid more, right? But you do. It seems like you definitely have. If you're on site, God bless you. And I know that's one thing that you have to kind of move. Me as a broker in real estate, I'm just like, man, that's the one thing that I dislike is having to push for my work to be done right, which it has to be though, right?
Right.
Here, number 3, we have an assumption. And you probably see that a lot in construction, right? A proposition or claim that you take for as granted as though if it were very valid. An assumption as in whenever you may have some kind of product or some kind of wall you have to place. And people assume, hey, there's going to be no water there. But actually, maybe a tub, right? And that's an assumption, right? How do you think you cure assumptions?
Well, assumptions get you in a lot of trouble in my business. So
got it. I believe that.
You learn very quickly. You don't assume anything. Blueprints are the Bible. If it's not on that blueprint, it's, you know, it's not there.
It doesn't exist. And you seem to do.
It doesn't exist.
Yeah. So, and because your blueprint is the agreement, I guess, right? Ahead of time, way ahead of time.
Correct.
And if you're assuming that wall's there when it's not supposed to be there, or that door is there when it's supposed to be there, because that blueprint's already been also permitted, I believe, right?
Correct.
And then so it's not just that the agreement between you and them, but it's also the city and you guys. So whenever somebody starts to assume, throws the whole thing out of the loop, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I can absolutely see your value there. It's really important. So assumptions alone. So you can absolutely tell them, hey, Professor Puente told me that assumptions, prepositions, and claims that you take for granted, and you, sir, have not done this right. It'd be funny.
Correct.
It'll be funny because they'll still be having to redo it, right? So compare the argument to other data, observations, and ideas. So if they have an argument and they give you compare it and say, well, this argument did not hold valid with this situation. This argument did not hold valid with the other situation, right? And number 5, and the last one, identify alternative explanations. It's important to have different kinds of explanations. It helps the system. It helps the ideas, because there's always easier ways to do things, right? And I think that the best way would be alternatives, always. So let's see what the class says real quick. Making sure you do extensive research and know exactly what you are talking about is a good way to reduce assumptions. It's absolutely true. Everybody makes an assumption. And I got to say something, Sonia. An assumption is also not just a negative thing. Sometimes an assumption, what that means is that's the thought behind it. That's the thought behind it. So the assumption in science is that gravity exists. Does that make sense?
Yes.
because we think gravity exists. We create theories from that assumption. If gravity didn't exist, then everything is off. But for some reason, we have to believe in something, one thing, and that gravity exists. So that's why the entire assumption is important. Sometimes some things change. Believe it or not, guys, may confuse you a little bit, but I think it's important. Somebody may have a stomach problem, right? Like an ulcer, right?
Okay.
And then that ulcer causes stress. So the physician may tell you your ulcer is causing stress. Well, your psychologist may tell you, believe it or not, your stress is causing the ulcer. Do you see what I mean? Those are two separate assumptions. One is more mind. The other one is more physical. Which one is right? We don't know which one is right. But it's saying the assumption is there, meaning that the probability that you got that ulcer is higher for the psychologist because of your stress. The probability for the physician is that the ulcer causes stress that is higher. That's why we go into inductive reasoning. That's why it's my favorite, believe it or not. So it's good to understand the word assumption. It also means your equation to your thought, right? So we're assuming it, right? So they made assumptions based on all information. Very true, very true. Even if you read something in a newspaper, you have to consider the source because the information is sometimes inaccurate. Absolutely true. Sometimes that happens. It's best to clear up information before employees start to make assumptions. Sure, that's exactly what Juan said. Thank you so much, Sonia. I really appreciate your time. It was great. You definitely helped us in our class. Next week is the midterm. Can't wait to see you guys for the midterm review. I don't think you guys know what the midterm review is. You'll get to see it. It's a whole new concept, and I think you guys will like it. And it'll definitely prepare you for the midterm. So this quiz is here. You have any questions, let me know. And that's it. All right. Thank you so much, Sonia.
Okay. You have a good night.
And good night, class.
Go Astros. I know you're happy they won.
I'm very happy. Congratulations to all Houston people out there.
And I've never been a big baseball fan, but, I was in Chicago and the Cubs were in it with the Dodgers. And then I found out that Houston was playing LA. And so I had all these Cubs fans all around me. Well, then I, was so stoked that Houston was winning. So I watched every game, and it's been awesome.
It's awesome. So. I know a lot of us, including myself, thankfully not so bad, have gone through a lot of strife with sort of hurricane, and it was a great way to end it. I think that's those two go together, and good story. I think we all feel more Houstonian, right? For it. So.
I had a lot of arguments that week.
Did you?
Whether the Dodgers or the Astros were going to win.
I hope you brought some great premises and came out with some great inductive reasoning and some sound arguments. But the argument is made, I think, with the victory. Have a good night. Yeah. Thank you so much, Sonia.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.